Well, good morning, Site Worshipers. This is George McClellan back in the studio from a little holiday that I took in Ireland. And we got to get, in the 10 days that I was gone, nothing's changed but the news. And it comes on so fast you can't keep up with it. And I was listening to the earlier 2 hours with Brian and his interview, his excellent interview with Stephen Aaron, who is currently the GOP chairman of this county. And I'm quite impressed. He seems to have a very deep grasp and understanding of the political situation. Now, also brought back with me a sinus infection. I don't have a cold. I don't feel sick. Nothing. But if you'll bear with me, we'll get this thing going and make sure that you get what you expect from me. And anyway, this important piece of news from BBC, I thought you ought to share this with you. Muslim suicide bombers in Britain are set to begin a 3-week strike on Wednesday in a dispute over the number of virgins they are entitled to in the afterlife. Isn't that refreshing news? Boom, the Suicide Bomber Union, the British Organization of Occupational Martyrs, responded with a statement saying that the move was unacceptable to its members and called for a strike vote. General Secretary Abdullah Alaud Bang told the press, "Our members are literally working themselves to death in the cause of jihad. We don't ask for much in return, but to be treated like this is like a kick in the teeth." So anyway, so much for them. Well, what else is in the news? What else has Wikipedia leaked? Wikipedia founder Julian Assange said the emails his organization made public make it obvious that Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton is a Saudi tool, just like ISIS. The WikiLeaks founder said that the most significant email in the whole collection is a Clinton correspondence wherein she asked the Obama White House to bring pressure on Qatar and Saudi Arabia to force those countries from providing clandestine financial and logistic support to ISIL and other radical Sunni groups. Also, the emails to John Podesta are quite damning. And in the light of the fact that yesterday the director of the FBI continued his and reaffirmed his idiocy, he has reached the highest depths, I think, of incompetence. He said that there's still not enough evidence to pursue Hillary Clinton in the court. All serious analysts know, and even the U.S. government has agreed, that some Saudi Arabian figures have been supporting ISIS and funding ISIS, but the dodge has always been that it is some rogue prince using their oil money to do whatever they like. But actually, the government disapproves. Well, that's not the case. If the king doesn't like it, it doesn't get done. But that email says that it is the government of Saudi Arabia and the government of Qatar that have been funding ISIS, according to Julian Assange. Those same governments, he said, have donated heavily to Clinton's family foundation. In return, they get major kickbacks. Under Hillary Clinton, and the Clinton emails revealed a significant discussion of it. The biggest ever arms deal in the world was made with the Saudi Arabians, more than $80 billion during her tenure as Secretary of State. The total arms export from the U.S. doubled in dollar value. That was Julian Assange. But even with these damning false facts made public, Assange predicts that Trump will have very little chance of winning the election. And I'm going to quote him, "My analysis is that Trump will not be permitted to win." Why do I say that? Because he has every establishment off his side, or in other words, against him. Trump does not have one establishment, maybe with the exception of the evangelicals, if you can call them an establishment. Banks, intelligence, arms companies, foreign money are all united behind Hillary Clinton, and the media as well, media owners and the journalists themselves. So that is the personal opinion of Julian Assange, and you haven't seen that, and you will not see that on ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, or even Fox News for all of that. Now, tomorrow's the election. We're all prepared for the election. Chairman of the GOP here invited everybody to the 1907 House Cafe and Restaurant to watch the victory party that will be going on upstairs. But what's going to happen? What will be the after-election results? And here's some facts I dug up and put together. I expect there will be whoever becomes the president, it will be such a contentious presidency that nothing will get done. And that's good. We don't need anything more to get done, except we need Obamacare destroyed and removed. I expect there will be lawsuits and counter lawsuits. Neither candidate is likely to go away quietly or undamaged for all that. And if the popular vote does not go as the elite state wants it to go, and Julian Assange said that his analysis is that Trump would not be permitted to win, so keep that in mind. If the popular vote does not go as the elite state wants, there could be trouble when the electors meet on December the 19th, or when their votes are delivered to the Senate President, Vice President Joe Biden, on December the 28th, or when Congress meets to count the votes on January the 6th, 2016. Now, January 6th is the final date. That's the count when everything will be made clear and certified. There is a great danger for violence in the wake of the media's crowing about a winner and crowning a winner and crowing about it. Can you imagine CNN, Wolf Blitzer, crowing about how wonderful a presidency we will have with Hillary Clinton? I mean, he's despicable as it is now. What's going to happen after that? I don't know. A small spark of the wrong word from the candidate, or mischief by the electors, or proof of widespread fraud having changed the outcome could trigger a great conflagration. I was wondering, the Democrats, according to BKP, said that they were bringing in 9 busloads into the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. 9 busloads of hired Latinos whose job it is to go around and jack up the vote for Democrats. How are they going to bring in all the dead Democrats and Republicans to vote Democrat? Just asking. Conventional wisdom holds that in a democracy, people have control of the government through elections. I've always believed that. I've always thought that that was true. And that's why we have all this hoopla surrounding the campaigning of candidates of our choice. But this season and the WikiLeaks has revealed that what it has revealed is that all modern governments actually control the people. And it's not the other way around. We don't control the people. We like to say of the people, by the people, for the people, quoting the line from Gettysburg Address, made famous by Abraham Lincoln. But we've come a long way since that date. And it's not, they're saying it's not happening. The people do not control the government. That is why it is more accurate to call it a presidential selection rather than an election. Project Veritas, and you've heard of that, has recordings of Clinton operatives admitting rigging the vote and other mischief. Go to Project Veritas on your Google and find out what they have to say. Learn for yourself. The government's propaganda apparatus is an unbelievably massive system. We are under attack from so many quarters, from forced medication to biological warfare to psychological warfare, that we can barely deal with even a very small part of the daily crisis that meets our ears. Most Americans have no clue that to be truly safe, they should believe the exact opposite of what the government and especially what the media tells them is going on. The level of distrust has arrived at that point. Will the election of Donald Trump be good for the cause of liberty? I don't believe he will advance the cause of liberty at all. because he's going to be fighting for his life the entire time he's up there. Neither do I expect him to shrink government. But the election, or the information that has come out during this campaign, is good for the cause of liberty. It's the beginning of the reversal of the deterioration America is going into. First, consider the Bernie Sanders campaign, then the Donalds. They have shown that a growing number of American people no longer trust the politicians and the government. Now, the Democrat Party was divided between the rabid communist Bernie Sanders and the crook, the criminal Hillary Clinton. And they played that along like there was a real contest going on, but in the very end, it was all rigged. And Bernie Sanders got a new house, another new house apparently to live in at the expense of the Democrat donators. So it has shown that the American people no longer trust politicians or the government. The Americans have begun awakening to the fact that, like Ronald Reagan once so famously said, government is not the answer to a problem, government is the problem. But even Reagan couldn't get rid of the Department of Education. It is plain to almost anyone at this point that it is the government that has stifled personal liberty. It is the government that is confiscating our means of production and our savings, not a foreign government. And we who have seen this coming for years can no longer be considered conspiracy theorists. It's out there for everybody to see. You just got to understand what you're looking at and not believe the propaganda that comes from the government or the mainstream media. When people see that there are others who believe, as we do, that government is the enemy, and that Republican-Democrat paradigm, that's the left-right paradigm, is a cunningly constructed line of propaganda to keep us believing in the election process, people's ability to look for other evidence of government's perfidy increases. This is one very good thing that this election season has accomplished. And I think it's time for a few words from our sponsor. We're at the break time, so I'll see you on the other side.
This is the big one, the 20% off MSRP model year-end clearance at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, with huge savings over $3,600 off the redesigned Malibu. Now just $20,400. Save over $8,600 off Silverado Crew Cab LT. Now just $33,500. 20% off new Chevys. Right here, right now, at Days Chevrolet in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
El Rey and Elegy.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Elegy.
Pizza Hut makes the best pizza in the entire universe, but they won't tell you that. I've been marooned on this planet for a while now. You are an impressive race. Your children know excellent hiding places. Your oceans aren't filled with lava. And you figured out how to combine a grilled cheese sandwich with a Pizza Hut pizza. Surely interstellar travel will soon follow, and then I can finally get back home. Round. Round like home. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza, proof that no one out-pizzas the Hut.
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Well, welcome back. George McClellan at FetcherNews.com, North Georgia's only live internet talk show. If you want to call me, I'm available at 706-889-9700 or George at FetcherNews.com. And I ended the last hour by saying that the very good thing about this election is has been accomplished, and that it is opening up doors to corruption. For Republicans, and let me rephrase that, for conservatives, actually, it has ended the Bush dynasty. Trump was so adept in emasculating Jeb Bush during the primary that it's doubtful we'll see another Bush run for president for many years. The only one on the horizon anyway is Jeb's son, George P., who is half Latino and speaks Spanish. It also revealed the Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment as actually twins, manifested in the Republican Party's lack of financial support for Trump's campaign, its covert and sometimes overt opposition to it even after he won nomination, and the many supposed Republicans like Mitt Romney, Jeb Bush, George Bush, John McCain, Congresspersons Adam Kinzinger, Scott Rigel, Richard Hanna, Ileana Ross-Lehtman, Carlos Curbelo, and Charles Dent, Senators Ben Sass, Susan Collins, Mark Kirk, Lindsey Graham, and Kelly Ayotte. And there's a host of lesser neocon Republicans and national security people from previous Republican administrations who have dumped on Trump. They cannot be trusted. The campaign has clearly exposed the collaboration of the mainstream media with the Democrat Party. WikiLeaks email dumps have proved that the collusion between the media and the Clinton machine have done more to discredit mainstream media's self-designed narrative of objectivity than millions of words and mountains of evidence written by other internet sites could ever have done. And I'm thinking now of Personal Liberty, particularly a good internet site that I like. The controlled media will not support a political candidate, Trump, whose politics and philosophy do not harmonize with the establishment, which explains the media's cheerleading for the criminal Hillary Clinton over Trump. Bob Livingston of Personal Liberty called the American political system, as we recognize it today, quote, benevolent totalitarianism, a seductive system of psychological warfare coupled with a highly oppressive legal system that essentially puts the people in an economic and political straitjacket while keeping them believing that they are free. Can't focus on those words for a minute. Keeping us in a political straitjacket, economic straitjacket. Obamacare is a good example. Why haven't the Republican Party, the Republican Congress, made any effort to defund Obamacare? They have made no effort. As a matter of fact, the omnibus spending bill actually did the opposite. And we've returned these people to Congress. I think there's a problem there, a real big problem there. This has worked to maintain the status quo, and that's what it is, the status quo for more than 100 years. But if things continue on this trajectory, regardless of whether Trump or Hillary Clinton gets elected, we can call the 216 the year of the Great Awakening. For the GOP, after this election, a purge is absolutely required. Term limits must be imposed by the people, not by Congress. Lobbyist jobs for losing candidates must be denied for 10 years, and prison must be the reward for violations. That's my personal opinion. And I stick by it. I say it. Now, we'll move to another facet that has interested me. We do have a group of people who are in conflict with the government, the federal government. And we've seen it. It started at the Bundy Ranch and it ended up at the Wildlife Refuge in Burns, Oregon. And I'm going to share with you an example of justice. The 7 survivors of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge occupation were acquitted of all charges, acquitted by a federal jury on Wednesday. Unfortunately, Robert Lavoy Finicum, who was murdered in a hail of gunfire from Oregon State troopers as he stumbled in a snowbank, still awaits justice. Ammon Bundy, the son of Clive Bundy of the Bundy Ranch fiasco, BLM fiasco in Nevada, who stood up to a federal land grab in Clark County, Nevada, Kenneth Maidenbach, Shawana Cox, David Lee Fry, Jeff Wayne Bonta, and Neil Wempler were all found not guilty on all counts. Ammon's brother Ryan Bundy was found not guilty of conspiracy and possession of firearms, but the jury could not reach a verdict on a theft charge. And I'll explain that one in a minute. According to reports, after the verdicts were read, Ammon Bundy's attorney, Marcus Mumford, was tackled, tased, and then arrested when he repeatedly and apparently even more loudly argued with U.S. District Court Judge Anna Brown that Ammon should be set free. Mumford was later released, but the Bundy brothers remained in custody, pending trial on charges related to the Nevada standoff. Now, that's going to be another acquittal. The government is losing these cases because they're using oppressive, totalitarian police tactics, and American people are not standing for it. And it shows up in the Hillary Clinton criminal organization. The government had claimed that the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge 7 conspired to prevent employees of the U.S. Fish and Game, Wildlife Service, and the Bureau of Land Management from performing their duties. Oh my. But what the group did was engage in civil disobedience in order to expose illegal and unconstitutional government action in the western U.S., including the re-imprisonment of Dwight and Stephen Hammond, 2 local ranchers convicted of setting fires on their property that got out of control, burning government property under control of the Bureau of Land Management. Prevented them from the federal people from doing their duties. Well, their duties were unconstitutional. And as I read to you in one of my articles, one of my pieces before I went on holiday, that anything that's unconstitutional is null and void. And that has already been decided in prior courts. Here's what Robert I. Roots, JD, a PhD, JD being a Juris Doctorate, he's a lawyer, and he has a PhD, acting as paralegal and legal researcher for Ryan Bundy, wrote after the proceedings. As I sat at the table between Ryan and the Ammon Bundy team throughout the 6-week trial, I was able to discern the evidence that the trial was diverging sharply from the prevailing narrative outside the courthouse. The defendants were accused of conspiring to prevent employees of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Bureau of Land Management from performing their duties at the Malheur National Wildlife Center in rural eastern Oregon. Yet federal prosecutors failed to produce a single piece of evidence of any specific threat aimed at the U.S. Wildlife Fishing Game or the BLM employees. The U.S. Justice Department alleged in count 1 that the 7 defendants and others, many others as a matter of fact, had engaged in an armed standoff at the Federal Wildlife Refuge with the intent of scaring away the various government employees who normally work there. Every defendant was utterly innocent of the allegation. Some were not even aware that the federal employees normally work there. Several defendants were also charged with firearms possession in federal facilities with the intent to commit a federal felony, the conspiracy alleged in count 1. And 2 defendants, Ryan Bundy and Ken Medenbach, were accused of stealing federal property valued over $1,000. Well, what they did was they climbed a telephone pole and removed 2 cameras and threw them down in the snow, I suspect. In fact, Amon Bundy and the other defendants took a monumental and a quite daring, as it is said, stand for the plain text of the Constitution when they occupied the Malheur Refuge in January of this year. They pointed to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the U.S. Constitution, which seems to plainly forbid the federal government from owning land inside the states unless the states agree to sell such real estate to the federal government. It's in the Constitution. And it is the basis by which the federal government seizes private property and creates other freedom-seizing actions against American people. Needless to say, the present reality in the American West is in sharp contrast to the piece of constitutional text, to that constitutional text. That's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Make a note of it, read it. The feds claim to own and control millions of acres of land in western states, most of which, such as the Malheur Refuge area, was never purchased from the state legislature or from anyone else. The most frightening revelations from the Malheur 7 trial involved the lengths which the U.S. government went to win its prosecution. During the Bundy occupation, the FBI literally took over the tiny town of Burns, and that's Burns, Oregon, and transformed it into an Orwellian dystopia. They were license plate scanners mounted on utility poles, drones flying throughout the sky, and military transport vehicles speeding across the countryside. Some out of a movie. Remember the movie War of the Worlds, the first one? Hey, all these people these military people driving around. Oh, it's in turmoil. In the aftermath of the occupation, the occupation was met with a bonanza of government spending by agencies at every level. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the BLM employees, who were supposedly too frightened to go to work, were put up in luxury hotels along with their families. In the aftermath of the occupation, the feds have spent further millions of our taxpayer dollars to rebuild the refuge, supposedly because the occupiers tainted it. Prosecutions were openly planning on asserting the inflated bill for damages at sentencing in the event the defendants were acquitted. FBI agents at the scene captured and even monitored every phone number connected between the accusers and the occupiers. Federal and state police appeared in such numbers that their total numbers will probably never be fully tallied, and that's like sending a division instead of a battalion to take out a nest of a machine gun nest. Just absolutely asinine. Our government is a police state. This proves it. It is a police state. Most startling of all were the undercover government informants that were revealed in that trial. After weeks of wrangling and arguing with defense lawyers, the Justice Department finally stipulated that at least 9 undercover informants were planted among the refuge occupiers. Thus, informants outnumbered the defenders on trial. One informer was even a bodyguard for Amon Bundy and drove him to his arrest. Another informant admitted he trained occupiers in shooting and combat skills. After a week of deliberating over the evidence, the jury came back with its verdict yesterday afternoon, acquitting, this is a couple of days ago, acquitting every defendant. Jurors said they were divided regarding the accusation that Ryan Bundy aided and abetted the theft of government property when he and others climbed utility poles and took down 2 of the government's surveillance cameras. There are reports that the U.S. Department of Justice spent $100 million of our taxpayer money on this case. But 12 Americans saw through the government's cloud of disinformation and dealt a sweeping blow for liberty, and hopefully a blow for impetus towards the acquittal of Cliven Bundy and his sons over the Nevada standoff. And so that's what we're facing in our country. We are not free people anymore. We're not free. We are in the clutches of some serious bad people, and it's government. And we cannot allow Hillary Clinton to be our government. It's simply, it has to come to an end. It has to come to an end. And speaking of Hillary Clinton, her maid actually handled classified information that of such a high nature simply because she was there. Oh, run this through the Xerox machine or whatever it was. And this FBI director, James Comey, he's got a deal. I saw a headline that said, Hillary will fire Comey for his perfidy, and that's my word, by making his second announcement that he had sent a letter to Congress saying that they were reopening the investigation, and then again by his announcement yesterday that there still wasn't enough evidence to send Hillary to trial or a grand jury. It's just amazing. So, but the thing is that Jim Comey has a 10-year agreement with Congress, with the executive, and with the legislative branch that allows him to keep that job undeterred. That means the reason for that is to ensure the integrity of the FBI. In one sweep, Comey has brushed that aside. It will not last another year. And I'm getting signaled. It's time for another word from our sponsor, and then I'll see you on the other side. We'll talk more on this subject. Bye.
This is the big one, the 20% off MSRP model year end clearance at Days Chevrolet in Jasper, with huge savings over $3,600 off the redesigned Malibu. Now just $20,400. Save over $8,600 off Silverado Crew Cab LT. Now just $33,500. 20% off new Chevys. Right here, right now, at Days Chevrolet in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Days Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
El Rey and Ellijay.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Ellijay.
Pizza Hut makes the best pizza in the entire universe, but they won't tell you that. I've been marooned on this planet for a while now. You are an impressive race. Your children know excellent hiding places. Your oceans aren't filled with lava. And you figured out how to combine a grilled cheese sandwich with a Pizza Hut pizza. Surely interstellar travel will soon follow. And then I can finally get back home. Round. Round like home. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one out-pizzas the Hut.
you gonna do with all that junk?
I'm Sheriff Dane Kirby, and I'll stand up for you.
I'm Stacy Nicholson, Sheriff of Gilmer County, and I will stand up for you.
Stand up and speak out. No matter how rich, cool, talented you believe yourself to be, how you treat people ultimately tells all. I am Allison Sosby, District Attorney, and I'll stand up for you.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
Well, welcome back. This is the last segment of Monday morning. This is George McClellan, George's Hour at North Georgia's only on-live internet TV talk show. And I can be reached at 706-889-9700, or you can email me, george@fetchernews.com. I'm going to give you my thought. I published this yesterday, and so if you got it, if you're one of my recipients, you read along with it. I call it Dies Irae, D-I-E-S-I-R-A-E. You Catholics will know what I'm talking about. I feel so silly. For the past several years, I have been really worried about our government being cunningly overtaken by communism. The communism that has worked its way into the American fabric by way of the Democrat Party through the issues of environmentalism, clean air, fresh water, cheap bioenergy sources, and let us not forget Don Quixote's windmills, mercilessly chopping up the protected bird species while the solar panel arrays on the ground fry them that get away. Boy, was I wrong. They're nothing but a bunch of sleazy damn crooks, hoodlums, freebooters, thieves, perverts, and sexual predators of little children, and liars too. Lying is the standard of their craft, lying without smiling, and convincing the rest of us sheep that stealing our tax money is good for the American economy, even while they import hordes of illegal workers, jihadists, criminals, to keep us off balance and thus subjugate us. Nothing has afforded me greater pleasure than knowing that the New York Police Department has forced the Clinton Foundation issue into the forefront, and that the U.S. intelligence agencies, having had enough of this crap, are putting their futures on the line by speaking out themselves. They are the real oath keepers. Many in the FBI agent corps are getting in line as well and pursuing leads despite Loretta Lynch's ordering them to cease and desist any further inquiries into the Clinton Foundation. Give us a break. The Clinton Foundation, what a sham. A foundation made of clay that is starting to crack and dissolve under the pressure coming down on them. I would hate to be a former Clinton operative right now. All I can look forward to is either a harsh interrogation by the FBI, followed and where they are made to realize their error, the error of their ways, and confess all, or just turn state's evidence straight away. Of course, that gives them choices of how to die: suicide by multiple gunshot wounds, or heart attack, or car accident. People associated with the Clintons in the past have often turned up unexpectedly dead under the strangest of circumstances. Sometimes there's no accounting for the mysterious ways of our Lord. Speaking of whom, where are the Bush bunch right now? They are the one world order advocates who voraciously dumped Trump, So did a lot of other Republicans, and are they going to try to save themselves from the coming disarray? To support Hillary is to be one of them. To support Hillary is to support treason. Republicans all over the country must now look at state GOP leadership as well as their elected officials and look at them with a very jaundiced eye. Folks who have money to burn can afford the financial trials that accompany lusts for power, especially in non-paying jobs like party chairmanships. And I'm making no accusations. I have no idea. But we are corrupted. Our whole system is corrupted. It's time to start looking. Why do so many incompetents successfully run for public office and come out a few terms later richer for the experience? For example, look at Anthony Weiner, the pervert. Look to your own state's leadership and start asking questions. Do some research, write some articles, get involved, expose the wrongdoings of cheap politicians, and go armed, by the way, while you're doing it. If our federal government, in other words, Loretta Lynch and Bill Comey, won't do anything about the Clinton criminality, it isn't stopping the NYPD. They're full bore against that city's political machine now, and I can tell you, once the ball gets rolling, it can't be stopped until it hits the back wall of a prison cell. Nothing makes a good investigator more joyous and happy than throwing a crooked politician in jail. Another damaging issue coming out now includes, apparently, a secret video of Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire, and several other prominent politicians at Epstein's private pedophile island doing their disgusting thing with our little children. We want these people in the White House? We want these people running our government? I don't think so. Dies Irae means the day of wrath, the judgment day. It comes from a hymn in the Requiem High Mass of the Catholic Church. Remember, freedom is the goal. The Constitution is the way. Now go get them. Now go get them. In the few minutes I have left, we have to consider the economy. The economy is in a tank. Obamacare being the greatest example of doing that. We listened to young Stephen Aaron here talk about his problem that cost him of trying to have insurance to keep from being fined by the IRS, but not having any need for insurance that he can't afford anyway, even if he had it. As the United States prepares to elect the country's 45th president, the economic record of its 44th president, Barack Obama, is increasingly being scrutinized by Democrats and Republicans alike. This highlights the fact that not only does the economy remain a dominant factor in national elections in the United States, but also that President Obama's economic record can be interpreted in a number of ways. No, it can't. It can be interpreted one way: failure. He wanted to socialize America. He's worked hard to do that. And so far, that's a failure. While many of the economic records of recent U.S. presidents are reviewed, rightly or wrongly, in either a clearly positive Clinton and Reagan or negative Carter Bush, Bush second, light, President Obama's economic record has proven to be much more difficult to interpret. What's to interpret it? To try to interpret what we see prima facie at first view, what you see prima facie, to try to interpret that is to try to figure out how to lie about it. Certainly, President Obama inherited an economic mess, and I have to tell you, the last 2 years of Bush's administration was a Democrat Congress. Congress pays the bills. Congress appropriates money. The president does not. Now, why Bush would sign those things, well, I know. He was a conservative Republican. That's so distasteful to me now, I can't stand it. But it was a Democrat Congress in the last 2 terms. It was Republican Congresses in the last 2 years of Bill Clinton's presidency that made him look successful. Keep that in mind. It's the Congress. Certainly, President Obama inherited an economic mess and has found the global economic climate to be a major impediment to the U.S. economy during his 8 years in power. Nevertheless, there is also little doubt that the recovery from the financial crisis and its subsequent recession has been among the weakest economic recoveries in U.S. history. That is prima facie. That's right there to be viewed. And they can lie about this guy all they want, but the truth will out. The truth will out. It is hard to argue that Obama inherited one of the worst economic situations that any president in U.S. history was forced to deal with. In fact, the economic situation in early 2009, when Obama took office, was the worst situation for a new U.S. president since Franklin Roosevelt took office in 1933. More than 3 years after the 1929 Wall Street crash that led to the Great Depression. Interestingly, while Franklin Roosevelt is considered one of the greatest ever U.S. presidents, thanks largely to his role in World War II, his administration struggled to revive the U.S. economy after the Depression, with a major recession hitting the U.S. in 1937-38, after a 3 to 4 year period of recovery. History, if we don't learn from our history, we are bound to repeat it. In fact, only during the Second World War was the U.S. economy completely able to safely exceed pre-Depression levels of economic output. While the economic contraction in the wake of the financial crisis was far less severe than following the Great Depression, the U.S. economy was also able to return to pre-crisis levels of growth rather quickly, certainly much more quickly than most other large developed economies. However, the lingering domestic impact of the crisis, coupled with a very difficult international economic environment, resulted in a rather sluggish economic recovery during Obama's first 4 years in office. And much of the blame for the economic struggle during this period fell at the feet of the previous administration, the last 2 years of which was Democrat, with a compliant Bush II as the president. Don't be swayed by propaganda. Know your little facts, dig up your little facts and put the timeline together. Socialism, wherever it has tried, has been a failure. In every country in the world, it has been a failure. And it's a failure here. It cannot succeed. It simply cannot succeed. It is the economic record of the second term of the Obama administration that largely draws mixed reviews, according to this article, as it covers the period 4 to 8 years after the financial crisis. Unfortunately, the scale of the economic recovery from this crisis was much smaller than had been expected, and the average annual rates of economic growth over the past 4 years being just above 2%. It's never been above 2%. It's been 1.3, 1.5, and 1.9, and that's as high as it's ever got. Moreover, 2016 has seen a further slowdown, with the U.S. economy forecast to grow by just 1.6%. Boy, you might as well die in a grave and watch the grass grow. Well below, and then 1.6 is well below the expectation from the beginning of the year. While this reflects badly on the Obama administration, it should be noted that the international economic climate is very poor, with other developed economies in Europe and Asia struggling to grow, and with key emerging markets facing serious crisis. Moreover, this poor external environment, coupled with economic and political uncertainty at home, has had a major impact on business confidence in the U.S., and this has played a key role in the disappointing economic results in recent years. And Obama likes to stand up there and tell you that he's responsible for our vast economic recovery and bringing us back from the brink of near destruction from the Bush years. He never accepts responsibility for anything he does or has done. Well, I take that back. He admits that he's the father of those two girls. Well, Altogether, while it is clear that the Obama administration has overseen an economic recovery in the United States, it's a pitiful one, mind you, pitiful, this recovery must be considered to be disappointing. I use the word pitiful. What will its impact on the 2016 election be? I will talk about that tomorrow. We're getting near the end of this show, and I don't want to get into this so deep that I am unable to complete it. So I'm going to go to one other facet and just mention this one other thing that I saw in the Examiner today. The question is asked, did Clinton win the early vote? I'm going to read the headlines. Did Clinton win the early vote in Florida? If what we heard from Stephen Aaron is correct, there's no possible way the polls were flooded with pre-election voters. Here's another email exposure. Foundation resources, that's the Clinton Foundation resources, were they used for Chelsea's wedding? I don't care, but those are Democrat money. A disabled boy tells Obama, I hate Trump. That's an interesting article. Nate Silver, polls showing Clinton up 5 points. Not backed by data. Not backed by data. Paul Ryan, he says he urges Republicans to vote for Trump. So he's seen the light. He's coming over. Conway being the young lady who is Trump's campaign manager. The Reno protester, she said, was a Democratic plant. That's the fellow who got arrested by the police because someone said he had a gun. Hauled it out. They hustled Donald Trump off the stage. And are the Democrats panicking over Pennsylvania? We heard a large discussion of that the last hour right here, and I'm telling you, it's time. I'm wearing out my throat with this little cold that I've got. Colds. I don't have a cold. I feel wonderful. I just have a sinus infection, but it's wearing me out. And I'm going to say it's time to see you. Say goodbye. Time to see you tomorrow, right here at 10 o'clock, Georgia's hour.